With that stuff out of the way real quick, we'll run down the AEW Full Gear card from Saturday. Overall, a very good show. I went more in depth with my thoughts in each match, kind of, on hashtag AskGSum on Wednesday, which is why I won't break down every match here. But real quick, the results from the show included the buy-in, Britt Baker beating Bea Priestley. Very good match, one of Britt Baker's better matches I've seen since she's arrived in AEW. Good, heated, intense encounter, kind of playing off the feud they've had up to this point. Tony Khan was very high on the booking of the feud in a post-show media scrum, one of those conferences they do after each pay-per-view, which is cool that they do that, including that Tony Khan's a part of it. Like, you'll never see Vince do shit like that, you know? But he had mentioned that he's played a very instrumental role in the booking of this feud. He's very high on the idea of having Britt Baker and Bea Priestley be one of their cornerstone feuds in that women's division going forward. So as a result, I could see this continuing, but a very good match for what this was. Santana and Ortiz to kick off the actual show, beating the Young Bucks in an awesome opener. Two teams worked wonderfully together, as only one would expect, given the talent levels of these two teams. Very good opener. Santana and Ortiz went over in the end to pick up the victory. And then we saw the Rock and Roll Express get involved afterward. They were nowhere to be seen on Dynamite on Wednesday, but it would be cool to see them wrestle a one-off one of these days on Dynamite. They are facing Santana and Ortiz, our Private Party, on next week's show, which should be great as a bit of a tribute for the late Matt Travis, who had passed away over the weekend. He was a wrestler with the House of Glory wrestling promotion. Sala Monster talked a lot about him on his podcasts over the weekend. Seemed like a really good kid with a very bright future and a very unfortunate death, I guess. A very unfortunate accident that took place in New York City, New York, Brooklyn. I forgot where he's from exactly. I believe on Saturday morning, I want to say. Maybe early Saturday morning, late Friday night. So very sorry to hear about that. But that match will be happening in that man's memory, which is really cool. So RIP to Matt Travis. But Santana and Ortiz versus the Bucks, great match. Santana and Ortiz versus the Rock and Roll Express at some point could be equally enjoyable. So hopefully we get that match at some point down the road in the not-so-distant future. Hangman Page versus Pac. And, I mean, they called their third match, or their match on Wednesday's Dynamite, the rubber match. Even though they did have that one-off match, you know, before Double or Nothing in England back in May. So technically, this was the third match. Pac won that first one by DQ. But this was really good. Thoroughly enjoyed this for what this was. Had more time. They were allowed to kind of go out there and do their thing. And probably the best of the three matches they've had on TV so far. This was great. Page going over in the end in clean fashion. So very good win here. Shawn Spears and knocking off Joey Janela in the subsequent matchup. Probably the weakest match on the entire show, but it was what it was. Served its role well, gave Shawn Spears a necessary victory. Their feud is not over, as seen on Dynamite on Wednesday. I wouldn't have done the match at all, to be honest with you. I would have done Britt Baker and Bea Priestley on the main show, and then this on the kickoff, because this didn't really have much of a story behind it. The feud started literally days earlier on, I think, AEW Dark, and then was furthered on Dynamite the next night. So it didn't really have much steam in the ring. It was fine, but nothing too special. It was fine for what it was, but considering the pay-per-view ended up going 3.5 hours, actually over that, it ended up going, not counting the kickoff show, not counting the buy-in, it went 3 hours and 40 minutes, which is inexcusable for a pay-per-view that did not need to be that long, that was really not one of their cornerstone shows. I know they're trying to do quarterly pay-per-views, which is cool, but they do not need to be doing, you know, a fucking pay-per-view that's 3.5 hours long. It's not necessary. There's no reason for that. So you could have easily cut this match out and saved it for Dynamite instead, but that's purely my opinion. For the AEW World Tag Team titles, SCU knocking off Private Party and the Lucha Bros in a very, very good triple threat tag team match. SCU going over in the end, I believe, by pinning Private Party. And yeah, just a good match here. It was kind of a spot fest, if anything, but for what it was, I enjoyed it. For the AEW Women's Championship, Ryo knocking off Emi Sakura. Not Sakura, it's Sakura, I believe is how you pronounce her name, her last name. But this was really good. One of the better, if not the best, women's match I've seen so far in AEW. Had a legit story behind it. You wouldn't have known that going in, because neither of these women, as far as I have seen anyway, have received any mic time at all on AEW Dynamite. But they did at Full Gear, not in a standard promo backstage interview type of setting, but with the video package, which I thought was very well put together, kind of documenting their history as, mentor and student. And I thought the relationship, that dynamic really worked well within this matchup. But Rio did end up going over, retaining her championship successfully, so very good match there. For the AEW World Championship, Chris Jericho knocking off Cody. Awesome match here that was more based on storytelling as opposed to in-ring action, which I'm glad they did. If they went for the Iron Man match type stipulation with the judges and all that other nonsense, which ended up serving no purpose, it would have been a fucking mess and way, way too long. AEW already has an issue. They already have an issue with having their matches run a lot longer than they need to. So I'm glad this was, not on the shorter side, it was about a half an hour long. But I'm glad they didn't go any longer than that. Jericho ended up winning after MJF threw in the towel. He had Cody in the walls of Jericho. MJF threw in the towel. Jericho retains. Per the stipulation, Cody can now no longer contend for the AEW World Championship. But I thought this was really good afterward, leading to the obvious expected angle of MJF turning on his best friend Cody. We all saw it coming from a mile away. Didn't take away from the moment in the slightest. I thought it was a great heel turn, if you can even really call it that, because it's not like MJF hasn't been a heel up to this point in AEW. The only times where he hasn't been a heel on TV is whenever he's been with Cody Rhodes, who we explained on Wednesday has been holding him down. He's been held under his thumb for so long now as his student, his mentor, whatever. Did I say mentor student earlier with the Emi Sakura Rio match? Yeah, kind of the same thing here. That Cody wanted to serve as MJF's mentor. And MJF kind of took that as an insult, and he backstabbed Cody when he least expected it on Saturday after his unsuccessful AEW World Championship match. So I thought the betrayal was amazingly well done, got great heat for it. One fan even went so far as to throw beer at the guy, which you would think it would have been a plant. They showed the guy on camera. They didn't do a zoom in or anything, but they did kind of pan over a bit to the fan who threw the beer, and you could see that he was probably wasted. He got escorted out of the building immediately after that. So again, was it a plant? Who the hell knows? But it was really funny nonetheless. And again, you don't see a lot of heels get that type of heat nowadays. It's very rare that that you see a heel the caliber of MJF who goes above and beyond in getting heat from this crowd and goes above and beyond in making you hate him. No matter how much you love to hate the guy, it's very easy to hate the guy, if that makes any sense at all. In the sense that it's not that I love to hate the guy, I just fucking hate him because I hate his guts. He's a piece of shit. He cost Cody the AEW World Championship. Fuck this guy, He plays his character remarkably well. He gets it. He just fucking gets it. And I'm very much looking forward to that Cody and MJF feud going forward, because that has money written all over it. And then you get to the main event, the non-sanctioned match between Jon Moxley and Kenny Omega, which I kind of discussed in detail on hashtag AskG on Wednesday, but once more, I thought it was a very good match. I enjoyed it for what it was. Did it go a bit over the top at times? Absolutely. I wouldn't really have done that. They did utilize the stipulation well. I will give them that. These aren't the type of matches I want to see all the time, maybe once in a while, once a year, not all the time. It kind of feels like an indie spot fest where they kind of go above and beyond and putting their bodies through so much pain and all this other shit. I'm not a big fan of that, but I thought given the background of this rivalry and their history in these type of matches, it worked. It worked for what it was. It made for a very entertaining affair, in my opinion. I enjoyed it for what it was. And Moxley, as he should have, ended up going over by hitting the paradigm shift, a nasty-looking paradigm shift on Kenny Omega on the exposed wood in the ring, which was a great finish. And I'm glad to see that utilized. It's not often you see the wood utilized in wrestling. Kenny Omega going for like a 450 or a Phoenix Splash and missing really should have been it, to be honest with you. Anytime anyone hits any sort of a move on the wood in that ring, it should be game over. Not a kick out and then you hit another move and it's over. Like, that's just bullshit. That's nitpicking. But overall, I liked the match, and it closed out a very good show from AEW. Probably wasn't their best pay-per-view they've ever done, but overall, I liked it for what it was. I thought the main match is delivered. No title changes, but we also got the return of Christopher Daniels, which was newsworthy after the World Tag Team title match. And I just really liked the show. The only real weak match on the show is Shawn Spears and Joey Janela, and not any particular match, but the fact the show went fucking 3 hours and 40 minutes again. If you want to do that with your bigger shows, Double or Nothing, I get it. Maybe All Out, Full Gear had no business being 3 hours and 40 minutes long. shorten your shit up and get the fucking show on the road, get it over with by 11 o'clock. If you're going to start it at 8 p.m. Eastern time, wrap it up at 11 or closer to 11. 11:05 I would have understood. 11:40 they didn't even start the match until closer to the top of the hour on Saturday night. I know it's a Saturday, not a Sunday. People don't have work for the most part and in school the next day, but it's still, as a fan, it's very, for someone who watches as much wrestling as I do, and I love this show, I'm just getting exhausted. Like Alexis, prime example, watched the entire show with me on Saturday, not including the buy-in. She had to go to bed by the time the main event started, because it just started way too late. But again, good match though. Enjoyed the show for what it was. They really just got to shorten up these pay-per-views because they're running way, way too long.